you may not even associate the things that you do in adulthood with those wounds as a child, because so much time has passed and so many things and experiences and additional traumas have occurred. You've found a way to now dissociate and detach from your childhood experiences. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Sunday Tea. I am your host, Danielle Lee. I would just like to say thank you for being here and I hope you're doing well. I want to add a trigger warning to this episode as I will be discussing some things that some viewers and listeners might find triggering. I also want to mention after last week's episode, I must have done a lot of cleansing and releasing myself as I became very ill. And if I start coughing, I will actually have to stop recording as much as I want to do it in one whole session. I don't think you want me coughing my guts up down the mic. So, daddy issues. I'm going to assume you're here because you have them or you know somebody who has them. And I really dislike the term daddy issues because it's glorified. It absolutely minimizes and devalues that person's experience of being abandoned by a parent or parents. And I don't believe it's given the respect that it deserves. The effects of being abandoned by your parent, father, mother, or both are really damaging to an individual's life. And as a child, these aren't emotions that you're able to process. And if you don't have anybody around you that you can speak to, or anybody around you that can empathize and understand your experience of what you're going through, you have no choice but to internalize those feelings of sadness, loneliness, confusion, and try to make sense of it yourself. As a child, that's not something that your brain is able to process. And as a result of that, you're likely to turn to other ways of coping. You may behave badly as a cry for help, attention, just to be seen and acknowledged. You may start to smoke from a very early age. You may turn to alcohol and use other substances. You might engage with other wounded individuals and gravitate towards a different type of lifestyle that you might not be accustomed to, but it's a way for you to belong in that new community or group. You might engage with behaviors that are not necessarily socially acceptable. And you might be promiscuous, seek attention and validation. The list is endless in the effects that having an absent father can have on a child. And you will likely meet people along the way who don't have your best interests at heart and ultimately add to that trauma and damage that you are already experiencing. And during those moments when you're going through those challenges, and you realize you're alone, nobody's coming to save you, you then turn to other ways of coping with that realization. As you get older and you start to accumulate even more trauma, you might even forget where it started from. But I feel wholeheartedly the actions that we take as a result of our childhood trauma almost certainly stem from our attachment to our parents. If you are able to process that during your childhood, that's incredible. I feel if it's not something you've processed during your childhood and you don't understand and you haven't been able to reason and comprehend why you have been abandoned, you will essentially carry that into adulthood and throughout your entire life. And you may not even associate the things that you do in adulthood with those wounds as a child, because so much time has passed and so many things and experiences and additional traumas have occurred. You've found a way to now dissociate and detach from your childhood experiences. And you will go through life finding ways to keep numbing yourself, whether that be with substances, alcohol, different relationships, sleeping around, anything that you can find that gives you a sense of like gratification or a sense of release or whatever keeps you from having to sit with yourself, you will engage in. It might not be substances. You might become addicted to food, overeating, undereating. Subconsciously, you're crying out for help and you're just numbing it over with other behaviors which are continuing to cause you more harm. And as an adult, not even as an adult, but you'll find that you may become more susceptible to attracting toxic friends and relationships. Those relationships that you attract are likely to be more harmful. And it's a cycle that you will find yourself going around and around and around in. And as a woman, I feel you grow up to become very insecure. You have a longing inside of you, a void inside of you, that no matter what you try or what you do, you can't fill it. And it's like this dark, empty hole in the deepest part of your core. And no matter what you do, it just remains cold and empty. And I found this comment online and it said, if you find out she has daddy issues, you better lower all expectations of her. She will be hot, cold, cheat, lie, hate men, never commit, and just ruin your life. She cannot be changed. I dated one for many years thinking it was trust issues. Daddy issues are much deeper and cannot be fixed. Just bow out without drama. So reading that comment, I can actually relate to it. And it makes me feel misunderstood. And it makes me feel sad. Because I feel that as much as they've said she cannot be changed, I disagree with that. I do disagree with that. And I myself have a fearful, avoidant attachment. So in my life, I have been addicted to the chase of being with somebody more than actually being with them. And I've been accused of being emotionless and cold in relationships. And these are things that I'm actually aware of. And I feel awareness is the first step in starting to heal those attachment wounds that we have. And generally, I just feel there's a real lack of compassion for women who have wounds of abandonment and rejection. You know, we go through life attracting relationships that don't heal us. They just continue to add more trauma. And in terms of that comment, somebody who is avoidant or fearful avoidant or has an anxious attachment, they are actually really, truly craving love at the deepest level. It's not that they're cold and heartless. They are afraid of being vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, being hurt, betrayed, and abandoned again. So taking it back to being a child who has had to wipe their tears, pull up their socks, and navigate their way out of the jungle. They're now built up this protection, this protective armor around them to prevent anybody from ever hurting them at that level again. So the first heartbreak they ever felt was as a result of being left or abandoned by their parent. They may have entered into another relationship which they felt might offer them security and give the validation and the recognition and the love that they've craved to find. They've only been hurt even more. They've only ended up being mistreated and abused and used and devalued even further. So when a comment is written like that, it's almost as if, you know, it completely invalidates the other person's experience. And I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying that dating a woman who has abandonment wounds is easy, because it isn't. But the chances are they're more likely to attract another individual who also has some type of wound in terms of abandonment. And that's the truth. If you're a secure person dating a person who's avoidant, anxious, then the likelihood is that it may well feel like they're going to ruin your life, because you're going to be in a constant push and pull dynamic. And if that person with the attachment wounds hasn't acknowledged them or hasn't built up enough self-awareness to know that this is the pattern that they're in and this is the behaviors that they're displaying, then there's nothing you can actually do to change that person. You should not be entering a relationship with the intention of trying to fix somebody else. You cannot fix anybody. The only person that can fix themselves is that person. As an adult, if you're unable to see what the effects of your abandonment have had on you, you're likely going to carry that for the rest of your life. You're going to have kids and you're going to pass it on to them. You're going to keep looking for validation. You're going to keep looking for attention. You're going to keep dating people who do not love you, who do not respect you, who do not fill that void within you. And as I said in my first episode, the only person who can fill that void is yourself. Now, you didn't create that wound. That wound was created as a child due to the attachment that you had with your parents. And as much as you have to acknowledge that, and I feel you should 100% validate your pain and your experience, I don't believe you should stay living in that place and playing that trauma over and over and making that a part of your story as you move through life. So the wound wasn't created by you, but you have done certain things in your life and made certain choices that have kept that wound open. And without acknowledging those wounds, you're going to keep reopening them. And it turns into a form of self-harm. Because at this point, you feel completely worthless. You don't feel worthy of anything good in your life. Subconsciously, you don't feel worthy of anything good in your life. And that is displayed in the way that you live your life. That's displayed in the decisions and choices that you make every day in your life. And you have the choice to continue living with that hurt and that pain and that trauma, or you have the choice to say, I don't want to live this way for the rest of my life. I'm going to make a conscious decision to sit with myself. Because another trauma response is not being able to sit with yourself, not being able to sit still for a minute, constantly needing a distraction, constantly needing to be doing something, going out, partying, holidays, constantly having something to look forward to. Anything that stops you from sticking and sitting with yourself is a trauma response. The day you can sit down, let's not call it a day. Let's say the time you get to sit down and really face yourself. The day you're able to do that is the day you're ready to start healing. And the only person who can make that choice is you. You can go through your entire life continuing to self-destruct and make decisions that are going to continue harming you. Or you can make a conscious decision to change that pattern. And you start, ironically, by working on trying to forgive the people who harmed you. And in working on forgiveness, you don't necessarily have to forgive that person for them. You have to forgive that person for you in order to free up space within you to allow yourself to heal. And you have every right on this earth to heal. You have every right on this earth to live a life that makes you feel fulfilled. But only you can make that decision to do it. And the day you make that decision to start healing and stop repeating those damaging patterns is the day you regain power back in your life. And that's the day you're going to start looking at yourself through a new lens and realizing that you are worthy, that you are deserving of love, of affection, of security. And if at that point there's nobody there to give it to you, you've got everything within you to give it to yourself. And that scared little child who was once abandoned hasn't gone anywhere. They're still with you every single day. You've just pushed them to the side and left them to sit in a quiet corner. But that little child is still sitting there, scared, lost, afraid, and confused. The only difference this time is that you're the one who, if you choose to heal, you're the one who is going to go and comfort that little child. You're the one who's going to go and give that little child everything that they didn't have when they were younger. And you hear it all the time. Healing your inner child is going to lead to your own healing as an adult. And, this journey isn't for everybody. I believe everybody has the ability to heal. But not everybody will have the patience, the time, or the strength to put into, what it takes to actually healing. But I wholeheartedly believe it's something that we can all do. And it's a journey that I'm on. And I didn't ask to go on this journey. Certain things in life, not certain things in life, God put me on this journey. Kicking and screaming, but he put me on it because I reached the lowest of the low. And when you hit rock bottom, the only way you can go is out or rise back up. And the option I recommend is to rise back up. Because yes, your trauma is valid. Yes, the experiences in your life, they are valid. But living in the past is not going to serve you any purpose whatsoever. Living in the past is only going to lead to depression. And living in the past isn't helping you to evolve as a human. Your soul isn't going to evolve. You're going to just keep repeating the same patterns and cycles and just become more and more depressed. And everything you are going through is in here. You have the power to change what is in here. If you really want to do that, you can do that. And something that kind of helped me forgive people who have hurt me in my life. And I'm not saying I've forgiven everybody in my life. That would be a lie, because I still find it, I'm still on this journey, I'm still healing, and I'm finding it very difficult to forgive certain people in my life. But I'm trying every day. And in trying, I find that I've lost my train of thought. So I feel something that enabled me to work on forgiving people that have hurt me was to remember they themselves are wounded. They themselves are hurt little children who haven't built up the awareness to know that their hurt is causing other people hurt. So they are essentially passing their pain onto you, and you are not responsible for anybody else's trauma. You are not responsible for trying to fix anybody else's trauma. The only responsibility that you have as an adult is to yourself and to your kids. That is it. You don't owe a thing to anybody else other than yourself and your kids. And if healing is a journey that you are on, I just want to remind you to please always put yourself first. Treat yourself with kindness. Have compassion and empathy for yourself. And forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. And we're imperfect. We make mistakes all the time. We don't get everything right. Nobody's perfect. And in those moments of imperfection, forgive yourself. Acknowledge it, release it, and move on. And that's all we can do. And I'm just sending love to anybody out there who is hurting, anybody out there who carries around pain. And yeah, I just really hope that you're able to start realizing that you really do deserve the best in life. And if you work on changing your mindset, you can 100% change your life. So thank you for being here. I will be back next week, Sunday, with another episode of Sunday Tea with me, your host, Danielle. Take care.